This is how your command will look like and function like after you're done watching the episode. You're going to be able to type slash select suggestion. You can select the type of the suggestion and then you can describe. After that, you're going to get an accept and a decline button. If you press on the accept one, the status and the color of the embed will be changed and the buttons will be removed. And if you press on the decline option, the embed color is also going to be changing and the status is going to be declined. Also, the data will be stored inside of the Mongo database. Alright, so we're going to be starting out with creating a schema for our database. So we're going to go to our structure folder, to our schemas, and create a new file and call it suggestdp.js. You can name it whatever you want. And here we're going to open up a const, an object, and here we're going to require the Mongoose package. And now inside of these curly brackets, we're gonna grab the model and the schema properties from the Mongoose package. And then we're gonna go down a couple more lines and we're gonna model.export. It's gonna be a new model. And we're gonna open this round brackets and name our database whatever you want it to be. I'm gonna name it suggestdp. Then we're gonna open a new comma. Now create a new instance of a schema. So schema, we're gonna open up round brackets, curly brackets, and now here we're gonna type guide id equals to string, then message id equals to string, and now details equals to an array. So let's go. So the guide id is gonna be a string, basically a string of numbers. The message id is gonna be the id of the suggestion message, and the details is gonna contain like the actual suggestion itself, the member ID, etc. So now that we're done with the schema, this is basically it. We can close out of it, and now let's go create our new command. Alright, so we're gonna go to our commands folder. Let's go to our systems. We're gonna create a new file and we're gonna call it suggest.js. Alright, now here we're gonna open up a const again and then require the Discord package. And we're gonna be extracting button interaction, command interaction, message embed. Alright, message action row and message button. So these are the properties that we're gonna be extracting from the Discord package. So alright, so now we're gonna require the database that we created in our schemas. So we're gonna type const db, we're gonna assign the variable to be db, and then we're gonna require dot slash structures slash schemas slash suggestdp, or wherever you have stored it. Alright, so now that it's done, we're gonna go down and we're gonna model.exports. The name of the command is obviously gonna be suggest. You can set the description to be whatever you want to be. I'm gonna set it to be suggest just for now. Permission, because you're still developing it, it's not finished yet. I would recommend you set it as administrator, and then you can remove the permission from it after you're done developing. Alright, so now we're gonna create our option. So we're gonna have one option, which is the type, and it's gonna be hard-coded. And we're gonna have the suggestion option, which is gonna let the actual user of the command describe their suggestion. So we're gonna open up an options array. So the first option is gonna be name type, so the type of the suggestion. We can also make this user input, so you can make the actual user type the actual type of it instead of selecting from a list. Now we're gonna have description. You can set it to be whatever you want. I'm going to set it, for example, select an option. Alright, so the type of it is going to be string because we're going to be using the choices, and also it's going to be required, set to true, and we're going to have an array of choices. So let's open up an array. So the first choice is going to be command, for example. Alright, I'm making it just like you have seen in the preview in the beginning of the episode. You can customize it as much as you want. Alright, so the value of it is gonna be command. Alright, so now let's create a new, let's put a comma here. let's create a new choice. We're gonna call it event listener. That's how we type it, I'm pretty sure. And the value is gonna be the same, so event listener. All right, so I don't know why I'm typing like this now. All right, so name system, value system, and they can have the option of other, and the value is gonna be other. All right, so now that we are done with our first option, we're gonna go to our second. So outside of this command option, we're gonna create a new block, and we're gonna name it suggestion. All right, the description is going to be describe your suggestion. For example, you can customize this as much as you want. The type of it is gonna be string, and it's gonna be required, set to true. All right, so we are basically done with our actual command structure. So we're gonna go down at this array, we're gonna put a comma, and here we're gonna async execute. We're gonna execute the interaction because that's the only thing we're using. And now we're gonna open our parameters. So at line 28, we're gonna add a slash and then 2 stars, hit enter. And inside of this curly brackets, we're gonna type C command interaction to get the properties of the interaction. All right, so now what we're gonna be doing, we're gonna be extracting a couple of objects from the parent object, which is the interaction. So we're gonna open up a const, we're gonna require, or sorry, instead of require, we're gonna just type equals interaction. So we're gonna grab the options, guild ID, member, and user. So we're gonna go down a couple more lines now, and now we're gonna grab the actual result of these options. So whenever a member tries this command, he's gonna get these options. He has to select one of them. So we're gonna type const type equals to options dot get string. We're gonna get it from the type option. Pretty simple. So this is gonna return the values of these choices. All right, so we're gonna go down one more line and type const suggestion equals to options dot get string from the suggestion. So whenever somebody types something inside of the suggestion box, we will get it here, or it will be assigned to this variable. All right, so now we're gonna be creating our embed. So we can type const embed equals to a new message embed. We're gonna be setting the color of it to be navy. All right, you can set it to be whatever you want. We're gonna set the author of it, so we're gonna type user.tag and user.display URL, and we're gonna make it dynamic. All right, so now we're gonna add fields. So .add fields, we're gonna open a round bracket, then inside of the curly brackets we're gonna have our choices or fields. So the first field is gonna be called suggestion, and the value of it is gonna be the actual suggestion, and it's gonna be inline. We're gonna make it false so it stands out. Right, so for our next field, we're gonna create an object. So we're gonna name it type. All right, so the value of it is gonna be the actual type that the user selected, and then we're gonna be having we're gonna be setting it to be inline. Now we're gonna create another field. We're gonna name it status. All right, and the value of it's gonna be pending, and it's also gonna be inline. Pretty simple. So the embed is gonna contain the user tag, display avatar, the actual suggestion, the type, and the status. So you see the status is pending now, but whenever we create our buttons, we're gonna be changing this this field. So like you see here, the arrays in JavaScript works or starts with 0, not 1. So this is called field 0. This is 2. Sorry, this is 1, and this is 2. So remember that. All right, so we're gonna go down a couple more lines. What you can do also is type set timestamp, for example, so you can get the timestamp. It's completely up to you. You can customize this embed how much you want. All right, so now we're gonna create our buttons. So we're gonna type const buttons equals to new message action row, and we're gonna create, or put the rounded brackets. Right, we're gonna go down one more line and we're gonna type buttons dot add, buttons dot add components, and we're gonna go down one more line and we're gonna type a new message button. All right, and we're gonna set the custom ID of it to be suggest accept, for example. All right, this is for the accept button. We're gonna set the label of it to be this is the actual name of the button, so we can type let's add an emoji and we can type accept, and we're gonna set the style of it. Set style is gonna be primary. Alright, so now that we're done with this button, we're gonna put a comma and we're gonna go down. We can copy this, paste it here. Let's remove this comma and change from suggest accept to decline, and from accept to decline over here, let's change the emoji, and instead of primary, it's gonna be secondary, just like this. Alright, so now we have created our buttons, so we're done with that. Now we're gonna open a try statement. So we're gonna try, and then we're gonna catch the error, and then we're gonna console log it, just like this. So we're gonna basically let the bot try whatever is inside of this between these rounded brackets, and we're gonna if it gets an error, it's gonna catch it and it's gonna console log it so the bot doesn't crash. Right, so in here you're gonna type const m, which is the message, equals to interaction dot reply, and here we're gonna reply with the embeds inside of an array, and then we're gonna reply with the components. It's gonna be the buttons. This is variable, and then we're gonna enable, so we're gonna type fetch reply. It's gonna be set to true, so the bot can fetch the reply. So once that is done, we're gonna go down, and here we're gonna create the actual document in the database. We're gonna type await dp.create, so it's gonna create a new document. All right, and inside of it is gonna be guild id. It's gonna be equals to the guild ID, which we extracted from the interaction object. All right, and the message ID is gonna be, so message ID is gonna be m.id. It's like this. You can await it too. I mean, instead of that, so you can remove the await here. This we can await it over here. So await. All right. Now what we're gonna be doing is creating an error function. Oh no, sorry, not an error function. Not an error function because we're not actually trying to find one, we're creating one. So we're gonna put a comma in here and we're gonna type details, and it's gonna be equals to an array, and we're gonna open up the array here, and here we're gonna be storing the actual data of the suggestion. So we're gonna open up an object inside of the array, and it's the first thing that we're gonna be storing inside of the details array is the member ID. So it's gonna be member.id, and then we're gonna be storing the type. So type is equals to type, and suggestion is equals to suggestion. So this is all that we need to do to our command. So what we basically did is we sent a message. So we assigned the variable to be the actual message object because we fetched the reply, and then we went ahead and created a new document inside of our database with the guild ID, message ID, and the details exactly like we specified it to be over here. And this should be it for the command. All right, so now if we start our bot, started, we're gonna get no errors, thankfully. So let's go to our Discord and try it. So suggest command suggestion hello, for example. All right, so it's gonna send this embed and it's gonna send the two buttons. Now if you press on any button, it's not gonna work because we are not listening to the buttons. It's gonna give you interaction failed. So to listen to the buttons, you're gonna go ahead to your events folder. All right, so let's go to our interaction folder inside of our events, and let's create a file called suggest or suggestion.js. All right, and here is going to be a normal event. So we're going to type const, we're going to open up an object, and then we're going to require discord.js. All right, and we're going to be requiring the button interaction because this is what's the interaction we're going to be listening on. And then we're going to also require our database. So we're going to type const dp is equals to require dot structures slash schemas slash suggestive p, or wherever you placed it. And then we're gonna model model.export. The name of the event is gonna be interaction create. All right, and then here we're gonna async execute. We're gonna execute the interaction and open a code block. And now we're gonna grab our parameter, like, sorry, it's not gonna be command interaction, it's gonna be button interaction. All right, so whenever interaction creates, so whenever a button gets pressed or a command gets executed, this event is gonna emit. But we don't want to listen on every interaction create, we only want to listen on the button interaction create. So to do that, we're gonna type if exclamation mark interaction dot is button, then we're gonna return. So if the interaction is not a button, then we're gonna basically stop the code and end it here. All right, so now because it's a suggestion command, you wouldn't want anybody in your server to just press a button and accept it or decline it. You want your administrators to do that. So we're gonna type here if exclamation mark interaction dot member dot permissions dot has, and here we're gonna type administrator. All right, then here we're gonna return, so we're gonna return interaction dot reply. We're gonna return content, and we're gonna say you cannot use this button, and we're gonna make it ephemeral, so only them that try to use that command is gonna be able to see it. All right, so now that we are done with our checks, we're gonna grab a couple of objects from the interaction. We're gonna type const, we're gonna open a code block, and we're gonna assign it to be the interaction, and we're gonna grab the guild id, custom id, and the message object. So now we're gonna go down, and we're gonna try to access our database and find the document that has the same guild id and message id as the suggestion. So we're gonna type dp.find one. All right, so we're gonna find one with the guild id the same as this one. Sorry, guild id just like this, and we're gonna the message id is gonna be the same as the message dot id, and here we're gonna async error and data. We're gonna create arrow function, and if we find an error, so if error, we're gonna throw the error. But and if we don't find data, so if exclamation mark data, then we're gonna return interaction dot reply content no data was found in the database. All right, and now we can set it to be ephemeral, set it true, and this is it for this check. We can space it out so it looks a little bit better. Depends on you, I'm gonna leave it one line. All right, so now if we pass this test, we're gonna define the embed. So we're gonna type const embed equals to message dot embeds, and the first embed, because you can send a message with multiple embeds, but we only want the first embed. All right, so for example this one. All right, so now that we have specified the embed, we're gonna type if exclamation mark embed, then we're gonna return, and then we have a problem, but we're gonna hopefully find the embed. All right, so in here we're gonna type switch, so we're gonna have a switch statement, and we're gonna switch between the custom ID and open a code block. And here we're gonna say case, and let's go to our suggest command. Like you see here, we have two buttons, one with the custom ID suggest accept and one with the custom ID suggest decline. So we're gonna copy this, we're gonna place it here. So in case the custom ID return suggestion accept, we're gonna execute whatever is inside of this, then we're gonna break, and or case, let's go back here, suggest decline, we're gonna execute this code. Let's make it a little bit nicer. And we're gonna break. This is not that important. Alright, so case suggestion accept, then we're gonna add a field or edit the field. So like you see here in our suggestion where it says status pending, you can count so 0, 1, 2. So we want to edit this one. Alright, so we're gonna type embed.fields equals or fields 2, this the second or the third one actually. So it's gonna be 2 equals 2. We can create a new object. So name is gonna be status. The value is gonna be accepted, and it's gonna be inline set to true. All right, and now we're gonna edit the embed. So we're gonna type message or the message edit, and here embeds. So embeds, and here we're gonna provide the embed, and we're gonna set its color to be green, and we're gonna type interaction dot reply content suggestion accepted, and we're gonna make it ephemeral. Ephemeral, basically only the user of the command will be able to see it. Alright, so actually let's put a return over here. Let's copy this and paste it inside of our decline, and instead of accepted we're gonna be changing it declined, and instead of green is gonna be red, and instead of accepted is gonna be declined. Alright, so how about we go and test our code out. So let's type node space dot, and actually before we test it out, or let's go test it out. So let's remove this. Now we're gonna type suggest type command hello, for example. Here we're gonna get the suggestion, and like you see here, pending, status pending, and it's this color. So if we type accept, like you see the color has changed to green and the status has changed to accepted. So if you type decline or press decline, it's going to be changing the color and the status. But if you want these buttons to be removed after you selected one of them, all you need to do is pass an empty components array. So we're gonna put a comma here, and we're gonna type components equals to an empty array, and same here, components equals to an empty array. So now let's restart our boat. All right, and we don't need to type another command to test it out because it's already stored in the database. If you go to, let's refresh it, suggest TP, like you see here, command hello, it's all stored in the database. So now if you type accept, did we even restart the boat? I don't know, let's check. So accept, it's not removing them. Let's see why. Components equals an empty array. Sorry guys, we don't need to have this here. Sorry, we will need to have this inside of here. So outside of the array we're gonna put components, and here and inside of here components empty array on the message edit, not the reply. All right, so let's restart the boat. All right, so now if we press accept, you see the buttons have changed. Now let's create a new suggest event listener, whatever. All right, so now if you type decline, it's gonna change the color, status decline, and it's gonna remove the buttons. And if you go to your database, let's refresh it, you're gonna see all of these suggestions in here. So this is multi-guide, so you can have it in any guide you want. And this is it. So thank you, Kevin, Vogt, Wilson, all of the helpers in our server, and a special thank you to our Ko-fi supporters. I appreciate you guys, and if you want to get the code of the whole tutorial series, subscribe to our Ko-fi and you can get access to the GitHub repository. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you in the next episode.